Nobody is coming to tap you on the shoulder. And the scary part, you already know that. You've known it for a while, but knowing it and actually doing something about it is two very different things. Because here's what's actually happening. You are talented, you are prepared, you've done the work, you've got the experience, you probably got more than enough to make the next move. But somehow you're still in a holding pattern, still waiting for that moment to feel right, still adding one more thing to that list before you go for it. And I don't think that is imposter syndrome. I don't think it's bad timing either. And I don't think it is fear, not exactly. But what I do think that you are playing someone else's game and you haven't even realized it yet. And that's what we are going to get into in today's session. So welcome back to Breaking the Timeline. I'm Shana, and this is a show for anyone who is done waiting for permission to build the life and career that they actually want. Now, before we actually get into it, can we just acknowledge something for a second? That there is a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes with being ambitious. And it's not the exhaustion of working too hard. It's actually the exhaustion of being ready for something that hasn't happened yet, of being prepared for a life you haven't fully started living. It's like revising for an exam that never gets scheduled. You keep adding to your revision notes and keep going over to material, keep convincing yourself you need just a bit more prep. And meanwhile, the exam dates stay split because you haven't set it, because you are waiting for someone else to set it for you. And I want that to sit with you for a second because it's that's landing for you right now. I need you to know it makes complete sense. Every message you've ever received about career progression has been structured about patience, permission, wait your turn, let your work speak for itself, earn your stripes, don't overstep. Now, that advice isn't always wrong, but if I was never the whole picture, and for a lot of us, particularly women and particularly young women, particularly those who are building a career in spaces that weren't exactly designed with us in mind, it has become a very comfortable place to hide. I know because I've been there. And the moment thinking about is the one that changed how I see all of this. This was when I decided to go for a head of year role earlier that anyone expected me to. I remember being sat with that application, reading back to the job description, running through the checklists in my head of everything I hadn't done yet, everything I didn't have yet. And there was this voice, which was quiet but very consistent, saying it's not your time, wait, you'll know when you are ready. And then I caught myself because I realized whose criteria was I actually measuring myself against? Who wrote that checklist? Who decided what ready looked like? It wasn't me. I just absorbed it, so it completely felt that it was my own voice. So I went for it before I felt ready because anyone wasn't going to be tapping me on the shoulder. And that decision, that one shift, is what today's episode is really about. Because I think most of you listening has a version of that application sitting in front of you right now. And I want to talk about what's actually keeping you from submitting it. Right. I think it's time we open today's professional hours and start addressing what's actually going on. Now, before I actually get started, I want to give a name to something that I see constantly in the women I coach, in the students I teach, and the people I work with or see on social media. And it might be certainly in you as well. And it's called credential collecting. And I don't mean that in obvious sense, like collecting qualifications for the sake of it. I mean it in a much more specific way. So credential collecting is what happens when you use the act of preparing as a permanent substitution for acting or doing, when getting ready becomes an identity itself. So it looks like ambition. Now, from the outside, it looks incredibly impressive. You're always upskilling, you're always developing, you're always working on something. But if you actually dig deeper underneath all those courses and certificates and the development plans, that there's usually something else going on. And that something else is avoidance. Now, avoidance is very sophisticated, very convincing, very well-dressed kind. The kind that lets you feel productive while never actually taking the risk. Because here's the thing about credentials. They are safe. You do the course, you get the certificate, you tick the box. That's a clear beginning and a clear end. And at the point, none of you are putting yourself in a position where someone might say no. Now, going for that thing, on the other hand, pitching yourself for the role, starting the new project, making the ask, backing yourself in the room, that's a very different type of risk profile. And our brains are designed to protect us from risk and extremely good at finding very rational sounding reasons to delay what we are doing. So, we decide to collect one more credential and then another one. And then we keep on leaping, and our leap that we say we're going to do 5 years ago becomes hypothetical. Now, if any of this resonated with you, here's the reframe I want to offer you. And this is the thing I wish someone had said to me a lot earlier. You've been playing someone else's game. So the traditional career model was built on a very specific logic. You earn the credentials, you demonstrate loyalty, you wait to be noticed, you get rewarded with the opportunity. That model made sense. It made sense in a world where careers were linear, hierarchical, and largely controlled by the people above you. But that is not the world we are in anymore. The people who are actually advancing across every industry, and I'm not just talking about education here, are not waiting to be chosen. They are choosing themselves. They are creating visibility before they have the title. They are building the thing before they have a budget. They are having the conversation before they are having an invitation. Now, the game changed, but most people, they just didn't get the memo. And so they are still playing by the old rules, still waiting for the tap on the shoulder, still trying to be good enough by someone else's standard, still asking the question, am I ready, without ever questioning who wrote the definition of ready in the first place. That question, am I ready? It sounds like self-awareness. It sounds responsible, but a lot of the time it's actually a very efficient way of outsourcing your own authority. You are waiting for someone else to confirm what you already know. And they might never say it. Now, it isn't because it isn't true. It's because nobody is watching you closely enough. Because people are busy. Because systems don't reward the people who wait quietly. They reward the people who make themselves impossible to overlook. Now, I want to get a little bit specific about where this waiting actually comes from, because I think there's an important distinction and that enough people need to actually understand. Now, there's a difference between feedback and opinions, and this difference is probably causing you the issue of not developing in your career. Now, feedback is useful information. It tells you something specific that you could work on, develop, or address. Now, you could possibly benefit from this experience, or maybe looking at managing something else before you start that. All of that is feedback. It's actionable and reasonable and something you can take. But when it comes to opinion, now this is something else entirely. It is someone else's limiting belief which is being projected on you. This could look like it might be too soon. You might need to wait another year. Now, all of those are not going to help you. They are reflecting someone else's idea onto your own timeline. The people who told me to wait before going to ahead of year, they weren't offering feedback. They didn't say that a specific gap, here's what developing that looks like for you, here's what you need to demonstrate. But instead, they said this is too early, which is an opinion about timelines. Based on what? Convention? What are they actually measuring against? And unfortunately, I nearly let them stop me. Now, learning to tell the difference between feedback and opinion is generally career defining. Not everything critical is worth your attention. Some of it is useful, and a lot of it is just dressed up as wisdom. Now, let me take you back to the head of year application that I was talking about earlier, because I think the detail of this actually matters. I was younger than anyone expected to be going for that role, and I knew that. I wasn't pretending. I was in 10 years. I was exactly where I was. And there were people around me, people I respected, who made it very clear, not always directly, but the timing fell off to them, that it might look too presumptuous, that I might be setting myself up to knock back that side of myself and I would never probably recover from it. And I sat with that. I really did. And I gave myself a serious consideration of what I was going to do and how this potentially could significantly change my career. And I started to separate what they were telling me from what was actually verifiably true. What was verifiably true? I had relevant experience. I understood the students. I had clear ideas about pastoral leadership in the school needed to look like. And I could articulate those ideas, caring generally, and put them to action. But what wasn't verifiable is that it was too soon, that I needed more time, that I actually wasn't ready. Because ready isn't a fixed state. There isn't a moment where readiness arrives fully formed. You develop readiness by doing the thing, and the people who seem effortlessly ready, they went for it. They went through it already. They just didn't tell anyone because they were scared about it. So I decided to apply for the role and I actually got it. And I didn't fall apart. I actually found being in that role developed me faster than anything probably could if I had decided to wait. Because there's a kind of learning that only happens when the stakes are real, when it's not theoretical anymore, when you are actually in it. That's what waiting costs you. Not just the opportunity for you to progress, but the development that comes from being in the opportunity. Every month you spend preparing instead of actually doing is a month someone else is getting that development. And the gap between you starts to widen. And it really isn't because they are better, it's because they moved faster than you. So what does this actually look like in practice? Because I'm not telling you to throw caution to the wind and apply for everything tomorrow. That's not the move. Now, the move is to actually identify the gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. And then I need you to ask yourself, what is one thing I could do this week that demonstrates capability in the direction of that specific goal? It's not going to be another course. It's not going to be a certificate, not a development plan. It just needs to be one thing, something visible, something that actually shows the people who matter, including you, that you are already moving in the direction. This could be maybe a conversation that you initiate, a piece of work that you volunteer for, a contribution you make in a meeting where you'd normally would hold back. This could be an idea you pitch that you've been sitting on. Something you do publicly that shows you are thinking. Because here's the truth about opportunities. And this is the one that nobody tells you in the career advisor books, which I wish they did. Most of his best opportunities don't get posted. They don't go through the formal process as you see with most jobs. They go to the person who is already visible, who is already associated with the solution, who has already in some small way started doing this for the work before anyone actually asks them to do it. Now, that tap on the shoulder that you're probably waiting for is going to go to the person who's already in the room. Your job is to get in the room, and you do that by taking up space before you are invited to do this, before you are ready, before it feels certain. This is what it means to create your own opportunity. It's not about recklessness, it's not about ignoring the real gaps, but it's about refusing to be absent, refusing to be invisible, refusing to be that person who listens to other people's opinion and don't make action. Don't let that be a reason why you miss out on your growth as a person and also in your career. So I think this is the perfect time that we end today's professional hours session, because I don't want to kind of overwhelm you on that sense. We have something to focus on about that thing that we're going to stop listening to of those people's opinions, and we're going to start moving forward and taking maybe feedback, which is going to take us one step closer to that place. And hopefully that journey that I kind of shared of myself and also the reframe that we are going to take gets you that one step closer to start taking opportunities just like that. So I think it's the perfect time now that we move over to that one thing that you are going to be doing this week to get that 1% better. All right, your one thing this week. Now, this week, I actually want you to write down the role or the opportunity you've been quietly building towards, and not the role that you think you are supposed to actually do. I want it to be the one that you wanted. And we're going to take the sensible's next steps. It's going to be the one that you can sit down and be honest with yourself and think that actually I deserve it. And you're going to write it down and then work backwards. What is one action, and I mean just one, that you could take this week that moves you visibly in the direction of that role? Something that demonstrates capability before you have the title. Something that gets you in the room. Something that signals, I am already here. I am already thinking about this. I am already moving. It's not going to be getting onto a course. It's not a plan, just one action this week. Because the version of you that has that role, she didn't wait to be invited. She showed up and made herself impossible to overlook. And that version of you is not as far away as you think. You are already building the story. Don't wait for someone else to write you in. Now, before you go, I've actually got a question for you this week. Now, I'm going to be running polls in my next few sessions just to kind of get an idea from the audience. And today's one, it's a simple one. Right now, which feels more true for you? I know I'm capable, but I'm not backing myself, or I'm generally not sure if I'm ready yet. Go and vote, because I want to know where you all are at so I can ensure that the episodes I'm putting out are linked towards you. And if you want to go deeper, drop it in the comments. Tell me, what's the role or the opportunity you've been waiting for to be invited into? The one you already know you want. So write in the comments or come find me at Shana Francis Official on social media, and I can't wait to see what you come up. Next episode, we're going to get even deeper, so make sure you go and subscribe, and I shall see you next time.